Welcome into the Back to 12 podcast. I am RC. You know who he is. I mean, come on, at this point, you should know who he is. That's Lyle. We're the Back to 12 podcast right now. I mean, we are going to talk about everything Texas Tech on here, but first and foremost, see the Level in Lobos behind you. How's everything treating you with the teaching game right now? You're on a 2-week break, right? Enjoying the good life.
Oh man, absolutely. I love my kids. They're amazing, but it's time to take some time for myself. Kick back a little bit, watch some football, and just get to sit back and be a full-time dad for 2 weeks. So I'm loving it right now.
There you go. Yeah. How do you feel about obviously the NFL? It's unforeseen circumstances. Like you can't control COVID or anything like that. But how do you feel about the NFL literally having 5 days worth of football this past week? Because they're playing tonight too, or they're playing on Tuesday and everything. So,
man, I actually, I hate for anybody to get sick, first and foremost, but it kind of worked out. It worked out kind of nice. I forgot and I clicked on the TV and saw a game before, we hopped on this podcast. I didn't even realize I saw a football game, saw another football game, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? So, I think it worked in our favor. I know you've been watching the games too and being excited about it, but what you think about it?
It's weird. Like when I think of the NFL, and obviously, I mean, you're a lot closer to that situation in terms of the NFL and everything, but like I think about it, the NFL just owns a day of the week, right? Like they own Sundays. So it's so weird just to like think about you had it on Thursday, you had it on Saturday, you had it on Sunday, you had it on Monday, and then you have it on Tuesday. And it's crazy to me that like right now you think about it, once these games end on Tuesday night, you're less than 48 hours away from starting a completely brand new game week.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's just
I
wild.
can't imagine how the players feel,
Oh, I know. And I have to go and watch it on Thursday because I'm a Tennessee Titans fan. They play San Francisco on Thursday night. And I just please somebody get healthy, man. Just please somebody get healthy on that squad.
Still getting dubs though. It's definitely still getting dubs.
Yeah. Unless you turn the ball over 4 times. I think it's hard to win anywhere when you turn the ball over 4 times, but I digress. On the podcast today, we are going to go a little bit more in depth about let me check this note real quick, Lyle. Does that say a bowl game for Texas Tech?
Yes, sir. It's a new day and age for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, man. It feels good to be back, back to where we were at. And, I think this is just the start of where things are going to go. So, shout out to all those, athletes. Shout out to the coaches. Big things coming up, and I'm excited to see who do they play.
Oh, I don't know. You probably haven't heard of the guy or anything. You don't have any close ties to any of these people. It's just Mississippi State and this guy named Mike Leach. You don't know anything about him though, so we can just move along. We don't even have to talk about that.
Yeah, bet you. They, I hope no one brings their fat little girlfriends. Know how he is, and I know it's gonna be exciting.
You heard of Mike Leach?
I saw a couple interviews of him.
Wow. Okay. I mean, you're not going to get this kind of analysis anywhere else. I mean, we're the only podcast that obviously knows about Mike Leach in the Texas Tech podcasting community. I mean,
no doubt. We might even slide some stories in there. I apologize, Mike. But we may have to slide some stories out. The people want to know.
There we go. That's what we love to hear. You're not going to get it anywhere else. That's for sure. So in the Autozone Liberty Bowl, I literally had to make sure I didn't have like any eye boogers or anything in my eye just to make sure that I was seeing that right in terms of Texas Tech in a bowl game, but they are indeed in a bowl game. It'll be in Memphis. Total over under 59.5 points. I think an interesting aspect of this for Texas Tech going into it, in the last 6 games against the SEC, Texas Tech has been garbage. I'm just going to be honest about it. They've been bad. It's a new day and age, though. They're 1-5 against the spread in the last 6 games against the SEC. This one will be on Tuesday, December 28th. We all know that by now. But, man, like when you first saw this, I know we talked about it a little bit in the first podcast. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button right here on the Back to 12 podcast. Like, what was your initial thought? Like, because obviously you have close ties to Mike Leach. We all know that at this point, but like your initial thought was, what? Good, bad, in between? Like, what was it?
I'm gonna be honest with you. My initial thought was, I hate this bowl. I actually, when I was at West Virginia, we went to the Liberty Bowl and played Texas A&M. So the overall bowl for me, as far as like the gifts, the things that you did there. I mean, Memphis is a great city. I saw some historic stuff that I mean, you have to go see for yourself. You've never been there. You should go check it out. But just the overall atmosphere of that bowl, there was times where we couldn't go out. We couldn't go to certain places after certain hours. So the whole bowl in itself is, for me, I didn't really care for it. It wasn't one of my favorite bowls. When it comes to Mike Leach at Texas Tech, I think there's no better matchup as far as for media, as far as for the games. It's what people want to see. I don't think it could have set up any better than how it's set up. And like we talked about in the last podcast, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the most watched bowl game besides the college, the playoffs, because this is, like I said, there's some animosity, there's history, there's a little bit of everything that's going on. And I think this is good for Texas Tech fans so they can get it out. The best man wins. Are we over it? Are we still there? Do we need them? Do we want them? What are we doing here? So I think it's great. I love Mike. Wish him the best, but I hope I hope Texas Tech beats him by 21 and people can move forward with Coach McGuire and say, hey, man, we got a guy that's recruiting, that's got these kids playing, and he's not even here yet. He's here, but he's not here. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. But I think everybody's got to know Mike is going to come with his best. I guarantee he's coming with his best. This might be the most, game he studied all year, if you ask me. But I heard him say something about bring his check, so I know he's coming with it. So I know those boys are going to come with it too. I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
It's like, for me, from like and this is the great part about this, like you can bring it from like the historical perspective of like, you literally played for the man, like, but like from a media side of it, like I'm absolutely shocked the SEC let this happen. Like, I am shocked they let this bowl happen just because of everything between Mike Leach and Texas Tech. Like, am I saying that it shouldn't happen? No, I'm glad it is. But I'm shocked that the SEC allowed it to happen because of the what if factor. Like, what if Texas Tech does beat Mike Leach in Mississippi State? Like, it's a snowball effect type of situation, if you ask me. But, I mean, it's going to be highly entertaining. I'll tell you this right now. Texas Tech is in for a rough uphill battle, in my opinion. I think this is going to be arguably their toughest test of the season outside of maybe, the Oklahomas of the world and everything like that. Baylor. I truly do, because Mississippi State, for everything that Texas Tech does well defensively, which is stop the run, Mississippi State just says, screw that. We're not running the football. We're just going to throw it 59 times a game. And you know what, stop us. And not to mention, this might be the most like disrespectful part of it all when you look at it. Their quarterback's name is Will Rogers. Yeah. How disrespectful.
And the second as well? Isn't he the second?
I have no idea.
Third? I think he's like third.
I don't know.
No disrespect to Will, but I think he is like the third.
I'm just saying, like, in Texas Tech minds, he might as well be the 52nd. It doesn't matter. We got a Will Rogers of our own, obviously a great statue and everything out on campus. But, man, just like, there's so many storylines to me about this, in the sense that Mississippi State's going to be without arguably the best tackle in the country. Charles Cross is not going to play in this game. He's a top 15 pick, which is huge for Texas Tech to get to the quarterback. The problem is Texas Tech doesn't get to the quarterback. They have like the 121st best pressure rate in the country. Just abysmal when you think about it. There's only 128 teams in college football, at least at the highest level, right? And so just looking at it from like an outsider's point of view, and obviously a non-player's point of view, Texas Tech has like the biggest uphill battle for what Mississippi State does well, and that's pass the football. I have some stats written down. This is the thing that's super interesting to me over here, right? So Texas Tech gives up 266 yards per game passing, which is 117th in the country. Well, Mississippi State is third best in the country in terms of passing, and it's 385.7. Like, something obviously has to give. And Texas Tech is going to come out there and play their hardest. They're going to want to prove that, hey, like, let's put this Mike Leach stuff. Let's move into a new era. But I also wonder at the same time, like, you think about it from a perspective of Keith Patterson and Sonny Cumbie. I don't think that they're going to do this, but at the same time, I wouldn't blame them. I think it's human. And from a coaching perspective, you might be looking forward to that next gig, right? Like, how much time and effort are they using at Texas Tech? Because they're really working 2 jobs right now, right? When you think about it.
Absolutely. And I'll say, getting the opportunity to be a head coach, when you come, it's a lot of stuff that you have to get done very quickly. So it's honorable for these guys to even come back and coach in that bowl game. I'm at the high school level, and when I got here, there's so many things that need to be fixed so quickly that, if you're not here getting it done, if you don't have, you're hiring people that you trust, of course, to help you get it done, but you also have to guide them in the right way of the things you want. That's one of the things I've learned as a head coach. There's a lot of times where you may want it some way and people may intend to do it that way, but it doesn't always come out that way. So as a coach, it's important to be there. It's important for you to gain the love of your kids and the respect of your kids, as well as the program that you want to input. Being here, like I said, they didn't have an off season last year. And so it made a big difference on the upcoming year. And that's stuff that I took for granted, being a part of programs that we always did. My high school, Abilene High, we're in the Friday Night Lights, all that stuff. That's accustomed to lifting weights, to doing all that stuff, to showing up, even going to Texas Tech, as D1, it's mandatory. You got to be there. I think sometimes we take it for granted. So those guys, the fact that they're even coming in and being successful, the kids still buying in to what they're trying to do while their gig is going on, that says a lot about those guys. And then also on the bowl game, I think SEC allowed that to happen because at the end of the day, everyone knows it's about money. This is a big money bowl right here. I mean, I know Texas Tech travels well. Mississippi's going to travel well, and it's close enough to where people can get there. It's not a far drive, and that's what they do that on purpose, and they want to create storylines, and they want to. And like I said, this may be the biggest storyline of all bowl game season. So they know what they're doing. They're trying to get their money up, but I'm just excited to see how it plays out. I think the media is going to make it more than what Mike Leach and what Texas Tech is gonna make it out to be.
Hey, but Mike is helping build those storylines though with the "Bring me my check." I mean, he's helping, man.
He means that in his heart, though.
Yeah. Real quick, you mentioned the weight room. We were talking about this before. How often you going in the weight room? Just trying to put you on blast right here in front of everybody.
Yeah. Anybody that knows me knows. The last time I got let go is the last time I've been in the weight room. So sometimes I feel guilty yelling at these kids to pick it up, let's go hustle. And I know I'm not. I know as soon as they leave the weight room, I'll be locking it down and waiting for them to come back in there. How about you though, man?
I will say, the first time I went in the weight room, I went there literally today, and let me tell you, I don't want to go back for a very long time. And if anybody that knows me or has really even seen me in person before, they know I don't go in there often. It's a miracle at this point. I didn't blow away in the Lubbock wind. I somehow kept my feet. I really felt like SpongeBob. I'm sure you remember that episode where he delivers the pizza. That's how I felt in Lubbock. I had to hunker down and just go for it on a lot of days. So that was me. But yeah, no, the weight room and I, we're arch rivals. It's one of those situations. It's like the Yankees and Red Sox. I don't really care which one you call me. I don't really care which one you call the weight room. But on your front, at least you had to go through it. Like you went through it from the age of 13 to, I don't know, 26, 27,
Yeah, but the amount of weight I did probably didn't kick in until I got to college. I won't tell.
But you at least you can go into the weight room when you're, talking to these kids. It's like, listen, I've been here, I've done that, all this kind of thing. Kids obviously don't want to hear that. Been there, done that. What are you doing for me now? Kind of deal. I get it.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like, literally, I did that. So just come on, let's go. Kind of deal. It's not like you're talking for me, for example, if I go in the weight room and I'm telling kids to lift weights, they're like, you haven't lifted anything other than this pin in your entire life. Get over yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man,
it's different.
It's a little different, but at the end of the day, they want to see what you can do.
If I were you,
bamboozle me and get me to do 135 the other day, I was like, no, They almost got me. They almost got me.
Yeah,
but I
no,
saw
135. That's ridiculous.
And it might be on the internet, so I had to shut them down immediately.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Yeah. No, I mean, if I was you, I mean, this would be probably my ego going a little bit too. I'd just be like, oh, you want to know what I've done? I would turn on that TV behind you and just flip on some highlights from YouTube. That's probably what I would do. But you are also a lot more humble than I am in that regard. So there's that. I'm just saying what I would do.
They'll critique me up now. They'll let me know. They'll be like, Coach, you should have.
Well,
I'm learning every day too.
Show them the record book at Texas Tech and then just be like, you can critique me when the only guy that's beaten me is Crabtree. All right. You can talk about that. So that's what I would do. I'm just saying what I would do. I understand you're not going to do it. You're more humble than I am in that regard. Back to the bowl game, though. Donovan Smith is going to start, right? Mm-hmm. Do you want to see anybody other than him play in this football game at quarterback?
I mean, I like to see a little bit of everybody. I know that's not how it works. It's not how the game works. And it's not really they're not there to do that. They're there to call, Cumbie's there to call the game, try to get a victory. And I know he cares enough about these kids, about Texas Tech. He's going to give 110%. But I would like to see just a series of the other quarterbacks just to see what they can do. Unless, Smith gets out there and rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls. And that's the thing with quarterback. People don't understand. They got to get in the rhythm. And people also, we talked about this last time. The biggest thing for me is people don't realize it takes everybody to make the quarterback successful in a sense. And that's the thing I've talked to people about many and many times when it comes to basketball, when it comes to football. Basketball, if you get two good guys, it makes a difference. You're able to compete in games if you have 2 to 3 guys. In football, 2 to 3 guys is not going to get it done. It doesn't matter if you have Aaron Rodgers without an O-line. It doesn't matter. Without receivers that can catch, it does not matter. So I think the game of football, it always falls on the quarterbacks. Like I tell my quarterbacks here, when you guys win, you're the reason why we win. When we lose, you're the reason why we lose. And that's just where it falls on as a quarterback. That's why it's one person that plays that position. It's the most, the highest position that to try to achieve in the game of football. But I think we've got to realize too, what comes with that. Is he getting the proper help that he needs? Like we talked about that. I feel like I said about Tony Romo, I tell people that all the time. You hear him tell that announcements and, when he's announcing, people are like, man, how does he know that? He's smart. I guarantee you, like I was out there live, like he's a very smart guy. So a lot of times mistakes that happen weren't necessarily all his fault. And I think that as fans, we got to realize, one, he's a kid still. He's a freshman at that. And then two, it takes a whole team. And like I said, the best year at Texas Tech, you can go down that list of people that played: Danny, Crab, Marlon Wynn, like I said, Hamby, who's there, Rylan Reed, Louis Vasquez, Super Bowl champ. I mean, these are guys that are really, really good. Shannon Woods, the Baron Batch played in the NFL for 3 years. So I think people fail to realize, even on defense, Jamar Wall played in the NFL, Darcel McBath, high draft pick. I mean, Brandon Williams, you can go on and on. Yeah. But people don't realize those guys were in the NFL. It was a bunch of guys that were very talented that got opportunity to play in the NFL. And I don't know so much on this team how many of those guys right now in the draft that would be taken. I think there'd be quite a bit that got got an opportunity to play, but I don't know how many draft picks as where we were would have got that opportunity to be in that limelight. And I think that's where we got to understand as fans, as people, the whole aspect of the game.
Like thinking about the bowl, I know this is going to sound kind of weird, and I get it. It's probably from you're just a media guy, what do you know kind of deal. Like the game is obviously no doubt important, right? Like no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. But for me, Texas Tech getting to a bowl, the biggest thing for me was the 15 practices you get leading up to a bowl, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was the biggest thing for me, because you talk about rhythm. Well, how do you get into a rhythm? You have to have reps. Where do you get those reps at? Practice. Like, I know we're talking about practice. I'm not trying to Allen Iverson anything right here. And I know that some players despise it. Where do you stand on practice real quick? Are you a big practice guy? Hate practice?
No, I actually sucked in practice.
Oh, you sucked at practice?
Very bad.
Okay.
But,
but it serves its purpose. Even if you're bad at it, like, I mean, or you're good at it, doesn't matter either way. Like from a Texas Tech point of view, the game is obviously very important because you want to have that notoriety. You want to get to a bowl game. But I think from just like where Texas Tech is right now, those practices and getting those guys reps in a little bit more practice, in the sense that you talked about it earlier when you got to Leveland, right? Like you didn't have spring camp because COVID, like you just didn't have it. So now you get to kind of make up almost these practices for Texas Tech in a way, because they're in a similar position in the sense that they didn't get to have spring camp 2 years ago. So now they get to really get some of those practices that they didn't get, build upon that with a young quarterback and Donovan Smith, Baron Morton, whichever one you want, but also get guys a little bit more experience, a little bit more time with their coaches, because once the season's over with, the NCAA limits you to how much time you can spend with your actual coach.
Right. But the question now is what are they learning through these practices?
Sure.
Like, I agree with you 100%. We needed that. But at the same time, there's only one coach coming back. They're not running the offensive scheme they're not running the defensive scheme. So honestly, you got to ask yourself, what are they doing? Like, well, I know they're doing offensive reps, but how does that go forth to what it's going to be the next year? So I think that's the biggest key, is how are they doing that? How are they getting their reps, and what are they doing? Because if they're doing, Cumbie's offense right now, that does us no justice. It helps because we're practicing, but it really doesn't do justice for understanding. Because I think that's the thing too that people don't get, is just air raid is not as easy as it seems. Everyone thinks it's just line up and go deep and throw it. There's rules and stuff when it comes to the air raid. Now, is the air raid more lax than the wing tee and those type things? Absolutely. But that's the biggest misconception, I think, of the air raid, is people think, oh, well, it's just line up and run verticals, or, oh, it's just line up and run stops. Spacing is it. And I think it's very detailed in certain areas. And I think it's key to what they're being taught. And as far as coaches too, Coach Filani, he may taught a certain way to get off the ball, the new receivers coach, Emmett, he might come in and teach a different way. So, that's something to think about too, because when you've done something, some of them kids have had Filani for a couple of years now. And when your mindset is stuck on something that's here at level, and some of the kids' mindset, they're so used to doing stuff a certain way, it's taking time to break that. And I think as fans, we got to understand it may take a little bit of time to break the different habits. And I think they're going to do a great job next year, but we got to take that into consideration. It's like I said, if you've done the job 10 years and then you switch it up and do a different job, it's going to take you a minute to get acclimated to what's going on.
I didn't even think about that from a player's perspective, in the sense of, you're going through the reps and everything like that, but you're right. I mean, it's how many coaches are staying back from this previous coaching staff? I think you said it in one, right? It's Coach Smith at the running back position. That's it, right? So that's interesting. I hadn't even really thought about that in the sense of like, and just even really talking to players, right? Like in terms of tone can be different and everything like that. I think that people don't realize how guys learn. Everybody learns differently. Some are visual, some are more like, hey, I actually have to go and do it. But I think one constant is always learning your players and how they respond to tone. So I never really thought about that. That's an interesting aspect of it, in the sense of, again, I'm over here like, get as many practice reps as you possibly can. Go for it. Do it. But the coaching isn't going to be the same. In the sense of like, obviously football as a concept, you can do it a lot of different ways, but at its basic principles, every coach knows how to coach basic principles. It's just, how do you get those basic principles across, and how are they implemented into a certain scheme? You mentioned it. How are they implemented into the air raid? How are they implemented West Coast, whatever it may be?
But I will say too, even in that, it varies. Like as far as receiver coaches, there's so many I know that teach things differently than how I teach. It's the same principles, but they teach it differently, and sometimes they require you to do that. That's what they ask of you. So I think too, sometimes there's some coaches that I had that I liked a little bit better. As you get better and stuff at the higher levels, they let you kind of branch out a little bit more. But as far as coaches, they all have a little different twist that they add in there. So I think that's those kids understand. And then another thing you reminded me of when you were talking as well is these coaches are coming in to out recruit what they have now. So that's something on the back of kids' mind. Like I said, I know there's guys that I played with that when Tuberville came, they never played again. And they were really good players that started as freshmen and sophomore. And then Tubbs came in and brought his own people in. So I think it's a lot of variables to this when it comes to practice too. Like, what are those players thinking? The players thinking like, man, you know, seeing the recruiting class, like, dang, that's good for Texas Tech. We love it. As players, we love it. But, you know, there's the time when Julio Jones and AJ Green came to Tech. And if they would have came, there's no way I would have played. You know what I'm saying? AJ Green, Julio, and Kraft, there's no way I would have saw the field. But I said that would have been good for our program, but it wouldn't necessarily been good for me as an athlete trying to get on the field. So I think it's a lot to taking in at this time for those guys too. So how focused are those guys as well? Not only the coaches, like you touched on, coaches are on 2 different gigs right now. How much of is their head in there, but how much are the kids' head in there about, like, how are they feeling? You know, some kids may be upset, like, why are you not keeping Coach Filani? Why are you not keeping this coach? And they might feel some type of way. So I think it's a lot of emotion. It's a lot. And the only reason, like I said, I feel like I could speak on that is just when, you know, Leach left, it was a lot of emotions, a lot of stuff going on. Even people, you know, don't know, they call it story time here, but, you know, ESPN was calling our team and asking questions and then posting it on ESPN, posting it on the website. So, you know, a lot of the kids are just, you know, answering questions. They think it's a simple question. They're telling them it's, you know, confidential, and it wasn't. And so I think there's so much that goes into that people forget. We forget the bowl game. The whole key of a bowl game is to have fun. Yeah. Of course, it's to win the game, but it's to go get the gifts. It's to go enjoy yourself for a week, because that's what you play for, to go, you know, of course, win a national championship, but to go to those bowl games and have a good time. And that's why those bowl games orchestrate stuff for those players. I don't know if people know this out there, but they orchestrate stuff for the players. I know there are some bowl games where we went to the zoo. There are some bowl games where we went and watched baseball games. We did all kind of stuff that was really fun. And at the end of the day, that's what I remember. I don't necessarily remember the plays. I remember the scores, winning and losing, of course, but I remember the things that we did that led up to the bowl game. So
yeah, those brotherhood moments, like building those relationships and everything.
Absolutely. So it's a lot for those kids. I hope people keep that in mind. Be fans, of course. Be hard on them, be critics. That's the role that they chose to do when they came to play Division I football. But I hope everyone's mindful of the stuff that they're going through, the decisions that they're being made, and not to mention the transfer portal being so full. Some of those kids can't even afford to transfer, in a sense, because they don't know where they're going to go. And at the end of the day, they want to try to get that education as well. So I'm excited, though. I really am.
I'm curious. You brought up a point that just like jogged a question in my head, where you mentioned that, well, majority of these coaches aren't going to be back, right? Like, and some of these guys that are starters right now for Texas Tech, they might not be starters going into next year, right? So in that regard, is it good for these players in the sense that they're going to a bowl, that their coach has already been there for weeks on end, right? You think about it, Joey McGuire. Now, obviously, most of the coaches haven't been there the whole time. Kitley just got to Tech officially because he was at Western Kentucky, wanted to finish that out. You know, you have the Oregon DC come in as well, but the main guy himself was there. Isn't that a benefit in a way to like the program, where it's not just the coaches coming in during bowl season and kind of staying back in the back and, you know, letting the coaches finish the season out and then he can get his business going? Joe McGuire's been here during regular season games, so he can see how these guys actually like work and go with game prep and everything like that. Shouldn't that be a benefit? Well, you would think it'd be a benefit, because if you use it the right way as a player, like, okay, I'm proving to my next head coach, like, hey, I'm working hard. But it could also be a detriment. But like, if you were in that position, what would your mindset be? Would you view that as a positive? Oh, he's there. He's going to get to see what I do on a weekly basis during the regular season and then going into bowl season? Or would you view it as, oh my goodness, this guy's looking over my shoulder. Now I have to take this to the next level, and maybe put too much pressure on yourself to keep that spot that you earned, you know, a couple months prior?
To be honest, I think I don't view it either or, because as a player, the position coach is the one that makes that decision 90% of the time. Coach McGuire is a defensive guy, if I'm not mistaken. So his thing is when the receiver coach comes, most of the time that receiver coach is the one that makes that decision when it comes down to it. So that's the thing as a kid, for one, that you don't know who your position coach, what he thinks. Like there's times where I thought that I was better than certain players and coaches did not think that. And at the end of the day, whatever the coach thinks, that's what flies. So I think that more worried about the position coach, and I don't really see it as a benefit or either or, because even if the position coach comes, the relationship is not built enough to really get it coached up. Like you could say something, but if you don't know somebody, like if you have a boss that you don't know, you're gonna do what he asks, but you're doing it because he's your boss. More so, not that relationship right now, as if Filani was to say, hey, do this. They've grinded with that guy, they've worked with that guy, they've done it with that guy, and they're like, I'm gonna do it for him. So that's the key point, just building that relationship. And like I said, in the back of their mind, I'm listening to you, I'm shaking your hand, I'm talking to you, you're acting like you're loving me, but am I gonna be the starter? You got to earn that, most definitely, but it's a little bit more than earning it sometimes too as well. So I think for these kids, Coach McGuire being there is great for them to see, in the aspect of them knowing how hard they're working. You always want to do good for the boss man, but those position coaches getting in there, really seeing how they coach, seeing what they expect, and seeing what Coach Kitley expects. It may be something totally different than what they're accustomed to. His expectations may be higher, they may be lower. I don't know what those expectations are, but it's a lot. Think about when someone's coming new, you got to learn. You got to do this, you got to do that. And like I said, I can relate going to the Cowboys during the lockout year. And so we didn't get to have OTAs. We didn't get to do any of that. So, the first day we get there, boom, they drop a playbook and like, hey, you need to know this. And that's a lot of variables in that. If they're in cover 2, you do this. They're in cover 4, you do this. If it's man, you do this. Well, in the NFL, they come up, I'm like, okay, it's man coverage. They back up, I'm like, okay, it's cover 4, and they come to cover 2. So it's a lot to process within that time and try to get it. So I think it's just in their head right now, the only thing that they're thinking about is, of course, winning, doing the best of their abilities, but the mindset of uncertainty for those players, I think, is what it is. And that would be, for me, it's just wondering what's going to happen next, what they're going to expect. Am I good enough? You could score 3 touchdowns and may not be good enough. And then also for those guys, that were thinking about leaving, should I stay? Should I leave? Should I enter the NFL? Should I stay? It's a lot that goes into that variable, because that's people's lives. And like I said, if you enter the NFL draft and you don't get what you thought you were going to get, what someone told you were going to get, there's no going back.
It's not the NBA.
Yeah, there's no going back. So these are lifetime decisions, as well as transferring. You may transfer, not get picked up by anybody. And then you're like, dang, I gave up my scholarship because I was wondering. It's just a lot to those kids. So we just got to be mindful of what they're going through. And I think they'll still go out there and put on a show, but they're going through a lot. And it sucks to have a new coach. I think it'll be, in the long run, good for these kids, but it sucks for that time being, having people fill in that you like, even with us, like Coach Ruff. We wanted Coach Ruff to be the head coach so bad. Yeah. And then Tuberville, I'd never even heard of Tuberville before he got here. But I actually like Tuberville. But, just the uncertainty. Coach Brown, I never heard of Coach Brown before he got here. And like I said, it worked out for me, but for some of my teammates, it didn't work out as much. So I feel for these kids, and I know we need to appreciate them, I think.
Yeah, no, it's one of those deals too, where I think a lot of people that, just don't cover the sport or involved in it as much, just a casual fan, and nothing wrong with that. Don't understand that these kids do not typically commit to a school. They typically commit to a coach because of that relationship they built. And it just so happens that he works at your alma mater or a different one. Right. That's usually how it goes. I think people forget that. Real quick, before we get into this game preview, were you just drinking Big Red?
Absolutely. Big Red. If you're out there, holler at me, man. This is Texas's drink.
We need to have a conversation.
You don't like Big Red?
No.
What's wrong with Big Red? Big Red and barbacoa? You never been to San Antonio?
No. Listen. I'm not gonna crap on barbacoa. That stuff don't miss, right?
They go hand in hand, brother.
I know that people I've lost this battle multiple times, and I'm okay with it. I really don't care. Big Red, and it's fine. I'll go ahead and say it again. It's trash.
It's trash?
It's trash.
Let me see. Let me double check. I could be. Oh, that's delicious, brother. I gotta disagree with you.
Oh man, you don't know how bad that hurt me. Like that hurt me deeply.
I tried to lie. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, I respect the honesty. I really do. It's one of those deals where I'm not sure. Like there's some things that I'm just passionate about for no reason. You know, like you're just like, why does that make you upset? I don't know. It just does.
You deserve that.
And like the thing that makes me upset when it comes to the, soda industry is that Big Red still has a platform.
Yeah.
That bothers me. It bothers me.
I'm telling you, it'll change your life. I went to San Antonio. I started going, people started talking about barbacoa and Big Red. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? It's 9 o'clock in the morning. Like, it's too early for soda. And it's too.
Wait, it's too early for soda. What time do you start drinking soda typically? Like, can you only have soda in the afternoon? What's going on with that?
Yeah, man. You're just not supposed to hit the soda up till after, at least afternoon.
Really?
That days that you're tired, you can maybe get it in about 10:30, 11. But yeah, you should, you should get coffee in the morning, a little water, coffee, get your day right. And then save this for the afternoon,
It's not what's your stance on sandwiches? Like, when can you start having a sandwich?
Depends what you got on your sandwich. Now, if you got eggs on that sandwich, it's free game.
Turkey sandwich. When's the proper time to eat a turkey sandwich?
That's different. There's no time.
Okay,
there's no
ham
time
sandwich?
Huh? No,
I'm gonna find this line. I'm gonna find the line somewhere.
Ham, no. There's no time on sandwiches. Sandwiches are
you can go anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere with that.
So let's just play the hypothetical game here. Yeah. Since we're just so far off on a tangent here, I don't even know how to get us back on the rails. Let's say you're having a sandwich at 9 a.m. You're on a road trip. Are you getting a Big Red?
Road trip? 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
No, coffee for sure.
Short road trip. 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
I'm sleepy.
But there's caffeine in the Big Red, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true statement. But that's just me. The only two things I drink in the morning is coffee. And shout out to Dana Hogerson. I'll drink a Red Bull, sugar-free.
I've never had a Red Bull in my life, other than with alcohol.
Story time. The reason that I drink Red Bull, and I very rarely do drink it, I drink it on Friday nights, on game nights.
Okay.
And if I'm super tired on a trip. But anyways, when I was graduated, being a GA for Dana at West Virginia, he had like 5 refrigerators, and they had 4 rows of Red Bull sugar-free, and then the bottom rows is like water, Coke, Dr. Pepper. Like,
wait, we talking like mini fridges, or we talking legit fridges?
No, big fridges, huge fridges.
Like the ones you put in like the garage?
Yes.
But he had them just like next to each other.
No, not next to each other, just in different rooms throughout the facility.
So like, for example, just so I can get a better mental picture here, it's like you could technically go like, hey, where's the meeting today? And he could be like the Red Bull room.
Well, no, because there's too many Red Bull rooms. But like a perfect example would be like in our GA office, we had a refrigerator full of drinks. In the team meeting where we all met, or like where the staff met, the staff team room, Red Bull machine. In his back
Red Bull machine?
Or like a refrigerator. He had little bitty Red Bull machines too. Like they're throughout the whole thing.
Was this man sponsored?
I don't know. He should be, but like, I don't know how he like drinks so many Red Bulls. Like he drinks at least 4 to 5 Red Bulls a day.
That's not healthy.
No, absolutely not. And so I didn't never drink Red Bull, as an athlete. It's not healthy. You're not supposed to do it. But there's times, especially West Virginia playing in the Big 12, we play Texas at, 8 o'clock. Well, in West Virginia, it's 10.
Yeah.
And so by the time the game was over, it'd be, a TV game and get over at 12, get on the plane, get back at Texas time, 2:30. Well, West Virginia time is 4:30. So we get back at 4:30 and they were like, hey, you got to have these stats done because we're meeting at 9 in the morning. So I got there and there's times I was passing out. I said, you know what? He put 5 machines up in here with 3 mini Red Bull machines. I'm finna try one of these Red Bulls. And ever since then, I get sleepy. I just go to the machine because I'd be in meetings falling out. He'll call you out in a heartbeat. So I had to make it work. So That's the only reason why I drink. Though there was like, why do you not drink sugar in it? I was like, I'm not a Red Bull person or energy drink person, but Dana put me on the sugar free, so that's all I'll do.
So little do we know there in your offices, it's just big red machines, right?
The way our bank account set up, we ain't got no machines in
Oh,
here.
it takes 3 days for it to process, like Kevin Hart said. I got it.
This is BYOS. Bring your own soda. That's where we're at.
Gotcha. Okay, I can get behind that.
There, go on in Big Red, go on to sponsor our office.
So I'm just gonna put you in this situation. Gun to your head. Guys telling you, hey, what's your favorite soda of all time? Is it Big Red?
No, it's not.
Is it Dr. Pepper?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're good.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper's number one. Big Red. I mean, I just enjoy Big Red. I wouldn't put Big Red as one of my favorites, but I enjoy Big Red. But I'm not a soda person. So like I said, I drink Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
Or, when I'm sleepy, Big Red sometimes when I'm sleepy, and then I drink Coke with my adult beverages sometimes. Other than that.
Must be 21 or older.
Yeah 21 or older, and it's just power juice for you young people out there watching. Power.
Yeah. You big Pedialyte guy?
Yes.
I don't know. People be talking trash about, Pedialyte. I'm over here like, I think it tastes great.
Yeah.
I think it's good. You got to get the right flavors, of course, but I think it's good.
Yeah, that too. And you just got to remember what you're drinking it for. That's what people fail to realize. What are you doing it for? Yeah. Like, are you doing it for fully flavor? Are you trying to get hydrated? What are you trying to do?
I'm just trying to get hydrated.
That's it.
I think it's underrated. Like, I think, I don't think people, and I'm not trying to go all kinesiology on everybody. I don't know. What did you get your degree in again?
Kinesiology, but.
Shout out to that minor. Mine was in sports management and then PR, and then I got a minor in kinesiology. I don't think people realize the correlation between being hydrated and staying healthy.
Yeah.
Like, there's a huge correlation there. Like, if you drink enough water, you're probably going to fight off a lot of diseases. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that. I'm sorry we went on that tangent. I just saw you drink Big Red a couple times. I had to check myself because I've gone on previous podcasts before where the host is drinking Big Red, and it throws me for a loop. And I don't know where my Big Red hatred comes from. I truly don't, because I don't think it actually tastes that bad. I just don't know where it comes from. Like, I've tried to. I think it's probably something like there's a mental block.
That's my fault. I should have talked to you about it before,
No, it's fine.
Being brothers, being hosts. I should have came forth and let you know.
No. I think it's great content. I think it's great content. And the people are going to love it. That's for sure. We can even bring up Big Red on Twitter and everything like that and see if people actually like it or whatnot. Hopefully it's a no, but I know that I'm going to be in the minority there in the sense that people love Big Red.
Respect.
I don't get it, but I'm not going to hate on anybody for it, I guess. I will hate on Mississippi State, though, because we need to talk about this matchup going into Memphis. We talked about a little bit, but I wanted to bring up some of these numbers because I was very interested, like doing a little bit of research about this game earlier today in the sense of how does Texas Tech actually like stack up against Mississippi State? And it's not good, Lyle. It's not good. Like, everything Texas Tech does well, Mississippi State just doesn't do it. And then everything that Texas Tech does bad, Mississippi State does at an elite level.
But I think we got to understand too, they're kind of screwed with these stats because what they're going against, they're good at run defense, so they go against run 90% of the time. So I think we got to take that into account. It's always like that same argument I have every year when it comes to SEC, Big 12. I think that they play two different styles of football. So I think like these are the only conferences, not only conferences, but these are the big conferences that are so different in the way that they run their offenses, the way that they run their defenses, the way they recruit defenses. So they have bigger guys, faster guys, but we have, I'd say, faster, shiftier guys. There's not many little guys you're going to see. You're going to see 6'4" receivers. Leach has a bunch of 6'4" receivers, 6 foot, whereas Texas Tech may have a 5'10", a 5'11" type receiver. So I think it's all that is the numbers are different because of what conference they're in, as well as any game, anything can happen. I think we all know that. So I think when you look at matchups, if it'd be different if they were similar, but I think you never know. I don't think that Mississippi has faced a team that's going to throw it as much as Texas Tech is. And I don't think Texas Tech has faced a team that's going to run it as much as Mississippi State is. So I think at the same time, we may, we may struggle with some of that stuff. But when you see it a bunch of times, I think that they're preparing. I think Coach Patterson knows that they're going to run the ball. I mean, that they're going to throw the ball a little bit. And I think that plays into our hands because they're going to throw the ball, and that's what we see in our league. Now, do they see passing on their league? I don't think they see it as much as they're going to see it when they play us. So I actually think when it comes to the matchups, as far as players, do we have the matchup? No. But with what they see and what they do, I kind of feel like we have a little edge when it comes to that. What you think about it?
I mean, it's one of those deals for me because I think if you just, and this isn't the way to look at it, and I get that fans look at it this way, and I don't blame them at all for it. But Mississippi State has higher ranked players when you look at the stars, but once you get to college, stars don't matter. Simple and plain. That's just how it works. And yeah, Mississippi State probably has a little bit more talent overall on their team just because, listen, they're in the South, the SEC, like it or not, they do get more just highly rated players. Does that mean they're actually better than the guys on Texas Tech? Maybe, maybe not, but theoretically they are. I think when you look at everything for Mississippi State in terms of how they lay out on paper, they are really good at stopping the run and they're really good at passing the ball. That's what they're really, really good at. And I'm more interested to see in the sense of Donovan Smith. We know he's going to be the starting quarterback. I want to see how they can exploit I don't want to say a bad Mississippi State secondary, but it's the weakness on their defense. And I want to see how they go about it. Do they use, more of those deep routes? Is it more of the crossing routes? Do you use more of the RPOs to try and, at least open up that middle of the field a little bit to bring the linebackers in and maybe give a little bit more room there on the seams to your wide receivers for a freshman quarterback in Donovan Smith? How do you go about this? Because let's be honest, they're SEC athletes. They're really good. Every athlete on the field is good at this point. You're playing D1 football to Power 5 level. There's no doubt about it. But I think for me, the most important aspect to watch, and it's my matchup that I'm watching throughout this whole game, especially with Charles Cross out, who I mentioned is going to be a top 15 pick in the NFL draft at offensive tackle for the Bulldogs, is how does the Texas Tech defensive line get to Will Rogers, if they can at all? I mean, you're talking about a defense that doesn't have very many sacks on the year. And now part of that is the scheme you run. You're not trying to get sacks. You're trying to get more pressure and everything and leak the quarterback out. So these athletic linebackers that you have, Enrico Jeffers, Kearshawn Merriweather, Colin Schooler, all those guys can get to the quarterback and just run sideline to sideline. I get it. But I'm very curious to see if you can make Will Rogers uncomfortable. This game turns on its head, in my opinion, in the sense that I don't think Donovan Smith has to be electric or be, the guy he was against Iowa State that pulled off that upset. I think he has to be a guy that minimizes mistakes, takes what Mississippi State gives him, and don't be afraid to use his legs first and foremost. But the matchup that I'm watching, and I'm curious to hear yours, the matchup that I am watching with really just bated breath from a Texas Tech side of things is that defensive line for the Red Raiders against the Mississippi State offensive line. And if Texas Tech, they don't even have to get sacks or anything, just make Will Rogers uncomfortable. That's it. Jalen Hutchins is probably the player that I'm most watching in this game, because if you can get pressure in the quarterback's face, this, if the pressure comes in his face and he has to move left or right, their chances of completing a pass go astronomically down, unless, you're a Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers type guy. And no disrespect to Will Rogers, he's not. He's just not that guy. So that's the matchup I'm watching. What are you watching in this matchup between the Bulldogs and Red Raiders?
I think first of all, too, another thing we need to talk about is it's supposed to rain, or it might be a little rainy. When we played here, it rained and it was cold as well. And I'm sure it's going to be cold in Memphis. So that's something to, look at and see how they're going to be able to react, because sometimes it's hard to throw the ball. It's hard to catch it in that type of weather. I think the biggest matchup for me I'm looking at is backers versus our running backs. I think our O-line is good enough to keep them at bay. I'm not saying that we'll go out there and hold them to 0 sacks or anything like that, but those linebackers, I think they have really good linebackers, and they do a great job of playing the pass and the run. I think if we could get our running backs to make somebody miss, it's going to make those guys react a little more, because they're going to know we're going to want to pass the ball. I think the key for us is being able to run like you talked about. But I think the matchup that I want to see is I think we have really good running backs, and I think I want to see the matchup is are we able to make one person miss? Are we getting tackled by one person, or is it taking one or two? And I think for us, if we can make those guys miss, make those guys start thinking about, okay, are they running? Are they passing? I think that's the key, because I think that, they're a little bit more athletic, a little bigger, a little faster, a little stronger than us. But I think I think our running backs are good enough to make those guys miss and make them have to adjust and put those guys on the backside, which are their weakest area on their team, put them in a bind and make them really have to make plays back there. Because if not, if we can't run the ball, those linebackers will be able to assist those guys on the back end and help them make plays and drop the different coverages to help them out. So I think the key matchup, in my opinion, is those running backs getting those backers to fire up in there and make tackles.
What do you think Texas Tech is going to predominantly run against Leach defensively? Like they're going to run. I mean, obviously there's no, hey, this is the offense you run to stop the air raid, because you can adjust in the air raid. But you think they're going to run cover 2, cover 4, maybe a little bit of man? They just think their athletes are better than the Texas Tech athletes on the outside, maybe other than Eric Izakama? Like, what do you think they run predominantly? And I said that wrong, obviously, but what do you think Texas Tech's defense runs against Mike Leach, in the sense that, do they think that, okay, Rashad Williams can line up against that guy on the outside from the SEC at the wide receiver position, or do they play more zone? Is that cover 2? Is that cover 4? Like, what do they run if you're Keith Patterson in this Texas Tech defense against Mike Leach?
I think Coach Patterson understands sitting back against Leach. That's not it. Anytime that defense is sit back, even when we play, when you sit back, it makes it really easy for us as receivers to see what's going on, to see what you're doing. I think what gives us trouble, the most trouble, when we lost to OU back in 08 when we got smacked, was their ability to bring pressure, make Graham have to get uncomfortable, like you said. And if they can make him uncomfortable, then we got success. But if he's sitting back there comfortably, it's going to be a long day. So I think Coach Patterson brings some heat. However he does it, I think he might go some zone and bring some zone pressures. I don't know if I think he'll go man a little bit. I don't know how comfortable he feels, but I really feel like our secondary is pretty good. I don't think that we've played a receiver core as good as what we're going to see this week or when we play in the bowl game. But I do think that we're good enough to play man sometimes. But I think we're going to see a lot of pressure, try to make him uncomfortable. Also in deep situations like 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20, we're definitely going to make him run. I think that's the key. I think everybody in America knows that if we can make them run, if we can make him uncomfortable, that's the key to victories. Just how we are doing, how the athletes are able to do it. I think that goes on with the game. They may get out there and man them up and be good to go for the full game. We may get out there and get toasted and realize, hey, that's not it. But I think bottom line, we got to bring pressure, like you said. You said it perfectly. We got to make that man uncomfortable. He's pretty good. He understands that offense. And when you get a quarterback that understands the offense of Mike Leach, it's a problem. It's a real problem. It could get real dangerous. So I'm excited to see what's your feelings about it. Are you feeling zone, man? What are you thinking?
I think pressure is the most important thing. I think from the secondary perspective, I mean, I'm probably a little higher on the Texas Tech secondary just from seeing them in practice and everything like that. I think that there's better athletes in the secondary than we've had in, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years. I think that there's really good guys back there. Now, they've obviously had some injuries. I think the biggest what if is obviously Marquise Waters, like the Duke transfer. If he was playing all year, I think the secondary looks drastically different because you have a guy in Reggie Pearson that's technically playing out of position. He's supposed to play in the nickel, and now he's back at the free safety position. It's like, yo, these are drastically different things that you're asking this guy to do here. But I think for me, again, it all comes back down to pressure, right? Like, I mean, you mentioned it. If even a bad quarterback, and Will Rogers is definitely not that, a bad quarterback in an air raid system, if you give him all day to throw, the wide receivers are going to make it so easy for him because they're either, one, just going to beat their man, or two, they're just going to find a soft spot in the zone and just stick there. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to happen. So I think that Jalen Hutchins, guy like Tyree Wilson, Tony Bradford, guys like that are really important. And the guy that I think is the most critical guy on the Tech defense, and maybe I'm just speaking in hyperbole here and maybe just really going far out there, I truly do think it is Jalen Hutchins. Like, if you can get pressure in the guy's face in the air raid, make him uncomfortable, it's a game changer. right? And you're without, if you're Mississippi State, a top 15 pick in the NFL draft. We're talking about a guy that's going to be an instant millionaire the time, but before the ink even dries on the piece of paper, he's going to be a millionaire kind of deal. Like, you have to attack in the guy's face. And the other guy that I'm very interested to see how they use in his last game as a Red Raider is Rico Jeffers. Because I think that Colin Schooler and Kershaw Merriweather are great sideline to sideline. Rico used to be great sideline to sideline. He slowed down because of the injuries and everything, but you talked about it. Pressure is going to be a big deal, and you can use your linebackers there. Since you're only rushing 3, I think Rico is going to be one of those guys that Texas Tech uses to really try and get to Will Rogers and really try and make him uncomfortable. Before we get out of here, though, talk to me. Give me your prediction. Again, right now, I'll give you the spread. They're favorites. Mississippi State, it depends where you look. They're 8.5, 9-point favorites. I know that a lot of times, obviously, players don't look at that or anything like that, but as fans, we do. And then total over-under in this game is 59.5. So give me your score prediction, and we're going to hold you to it. We're coming out there to Lobo country. If you're right, wrong, whatever, we're going to steal all your Big Red and make sure that you cannot have Red Bull on Friday nights when you need it most if you're wrong.
Hey, I'm fine with that as long as y'all stay for the game.
Okay, cool.
I'm all good with that.
Cool.
All right, so I think my prediction, I definitely think it's going to be some points scored in this thing. So I'm definitely taking the over. Definitely. I think the score, and I know I have to say this, but I'm going to go with my beloved Red Raiders here. And I'm going to go.
And by the way, folks, I'm putting him on the spot here. Like, he didn't know that I was asking him to score. So this is why he's thinking about this.
Yeah, I got to be right. I'm going to go 45-42 Texas Tech.
So you got the Red Raiders winning.
Over. Yeah, I do. I really do. I just think, in my opinion, I think the kids are going to buy into it. Like, for Texas Tech, I think those kids, they have a new coach. There's an expectation to win, but there's no like full expectations of what they, what they need to do besides win. I think those kids at Mississippi State, there's a storyline. Like, he has beef with Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Like, he has a problem. I know his juice has been up, especially knowing playing. Like, I know he wants to win. I know the juice is up, and I know those kids, your kids always feel that energy. Whatever you bring, your kids are going to feel that. So I think they'll definitely feel that energy. I'm anxious to see what they do, but I think it'd be one of those things where they try to do too much, or Leach tries to do too much to kind of get his point across of his money. That's not a small amount. I have problems with, but
I'll take it any day of the week if he wants.
Right.
Yeah.
So what about you? What you got?
So you said 45-42. You got the over by a lot there. What is that? 45-42, 87 points. I always try and be like, obviously I'm a Red Raider. I graduated there, covered the teams and everything, but just like watching the Mississippi State film and everything, this is going to be tough. I do think that Texas Tech covers the spread, right? Like, I think they cover that. Like, I don't think there's going to be an 8.5, 9-point win, but I do think Mississippi State wins it. And the reason I think that they win it is because of the aspect that we talked about earlier. I don't know if Texas Tech can get enough pressure on Will Rogers. And if you can't get pressure on the quarterback in an air raid system, you're done. You're done. Simple and plain. So I do think they cover. I think it's probably going to be like a 37-31 Mississippi State win. I think it's going to be close throughout, but I just think at the end, like, the pressure just doesn't allow Texas Tech to win it. But at the same time, it's one of those deals for me where we talked about the pressure aspect of it. If you can turn Mississippi State over, and I looked this up, when they have 2 turnovers or more, they're not a good football team. So it can change on a dime that quick. If you turn them over at least 2 times, I'd probably take the Red Raiders. Obviously, you can't confirm that to me or anything, because unless you can. Have you seen the future?
No,
you haven't? I didn't know if Big Red gave you those magical powers or whatnot.
Shoot, I'd be a rich man if I could see the future.
Gotcha. I didn't know if Big Red, like, that was one of the big things why people liked it or whatnot. I was just trying to confirm a little bit.
I do see a future of a sponsorship, so shout out to Big Red.
I'll add them on Twitter. I'll add them on Twitter for sure. You got to.
Gotta try.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. Hopefully weather doesn't play too much of a factor. As you mentioned, it could rain in this one. So
it's going to be cold.
I'm just happy Texas Tech is in a bowl game, man. Like, honestly, like, bowl season is always fun, but it's a lot more fun when your alma mater's involved in it.
Right. It is, man. It's always bittersweet for me, though, because, I love to see bowl games, but, as they go, it's coming to an end. Yeah. And so it's sad to see. Glad to, in the past, it's been excited to kind of start over, be like, okay, well, we get to start over. But it's been kind of fun watching them this year. And kind of in my past, getting the opportunity to be a part of a coaching switch has been kind of cool to see. And like I said, they always got my support. And, especially the coaches that, like we always talk about, I hope people are mindful of the coaches that, lost their jobs, because they're great coaches. And there's no doubt in my mind that they love Texas Tech, and they did everything they could. So, like I said, being in this position out here, I understand some things don't always go as you plan. Some things, it takes more than it's not just the coaches, it takes players, it takes a little bit of everything for everybody to win. So I hope that as fans, more importantly, we're better people, and just remember those that are looking out there, because they have families and stuff like that. So shout out to all those coaches that helped us get in this position, as far as keeping, like we talked about, keeping all those kids from transferring. That's
still don't have a kid in the portal.
Yeah, and I haven't heard any negative things said on any of those coaches' Twitters or anything like that. They said nothing but good things about these kids, about the program. So shout out to them, and shout out to Raider Nation. I just hope we could get our fan base to be a part of that and continue to move forward. And just remember, it's going to get there. I think Coach McGuire is going to get us there, but we got to remember it takes time. I could be living proof of that and tell you that and talk to you about it if you ever want to hit me, but it's going to take a little bit of time to implement what you want, get those kids to understand what you want. But I think we're on the right track. And like I said, it shouts out to the history of those coaches that has helped us get to this point. And I'm excited about this game. I know you are too. Yeah. Might have to do something and might have to do some game time. I don't know, man. We have to think about that.
Well, I know what we're going to do after the game. A live post game. So everybody should join us for that.
Hey, that's nice.
I'm just saying right there. I mean, I don't know if everybody listening is a subscriber already here on YouTube, but you might as well be, because I don't know anybody else that's going to be doing a live post game show right after the bowl game. We're going to be the only ones doing it. So you might as well get that instant reaction. We'll answer all y'all's questions, everything like that. Listen, he's a lot more positive about this than I am. I'll give him that. I'm a little bit of a pessimist when it comes to these things. I'm okay with being wrong as long as my team wins, kind of deal. So that's how I feel about it. But, second podcast in the books. How do we feel about this one?
Hey, man, you make it easy. You make it real easy. Now I know how Scottie Pippen felt, man. That's all I know.
I don't know if I want to be compared to Michael Jordan. He, the Last Dance made him look like a real a-hole.
Hey, the man's got 6 ships. He could have bossed me around and got me 6 championships.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Podcast like this right now.
Yeah,
every second scratching my face.
I mean, as long as you don't show Big Red on the screen anymore, we don't have an issue.
Hey, like I said, I keep rolling with you. I'll throw Big Red out. Next time we'll be with DP.
Big Red. Sponsorship, come at us. We're available. You know who this man is. Got the second most touchdowns in Texas Tech history. That's Lyle. I'm RC. Appreciate y'all listening. We'll be back for a post-game instant reaction right after the Autozone Liberty Bowl, where Texas Tech will face off against the Pirate. This man's old head coach, well, he was at Texas Tech and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and let us know that you're subscribed over on Twitter. And we'll be back here next week after hopefully his prediction is right and I can be miserable and wrong, and I'd be okay with that. Catch y'all next time, everybody.